we've officially got people watching us on YouTube. Are we saying hi to the people?
Hi.
Okay, let's get cracking. Hello and welcome to another episode of Jay's Big Chat with me, your host Jermaine AKA Jay. And joining me on this chat to discuss the big topic that is COVID-19 and lockdown, we've got Chris, Romario, Alex, Yasmin, Irvin, and Rosa. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Brilliant. Very good, thank you.
Good stuff. I've been actually excited to talk about this topic, probably since the whole COVID-19 came about, and I've had conversations with individuals about it as time sort of progressed. So I've heard a lot of different theories and different sort of ways in which people are coping with the pandemic. So I thought, why not get some of you guys to share some of your views, opinions, and if you can chuck in some facts in there as well, even better. So I guess we're literally just going to kick it off and say COVID-19, like what's our initial, or what were our initial thoughts on this COVID-19? Did you think, we do need to run for the hills? Were you cautious? Or did you just kind of think, oh, it's just another cold?
When China locked off Wuhan in, when was it? January? February? That's when I knew this was going to be serious. When they shut down a whole city, that's when I knew it's gonna be pretty big. So
I think for me, even though they locked down in China, I still, come January and February, was still like, all right, maybe it will just be there. Like I didn't see it spreading globally, and I was still not really worried, I think, in February, like January, February, because I was like, oh, maybe it's just not gonna spread all over the globe, kind of like how it has now. So I feel like in January, February time, I was still chilling.
Yeah,
like, I was still sitting comfy.
Yeah, I think because China's not one to react like that unless it's dire, unless it's a serious situation. They don't really. They're all about output, economic output, not necessarily health.
What about the rest of you guys? Were you sitting comfy, or were you panicking back in January when you first heard of it?
Who are you asking?
Oh, sorry, I can't. Rosa, are you talking? Because I can't hear you. Sorry.
No.
Oh, yeah. Now I can. Yeah.
No, I was quite scared. My dad's he's from Italy. He lives here, but he's from Italy, so he was watching the Italian news. So obviously they had stuff happening before the UK had stuff happening. They were ahead of us. He was telling me all this stuff, and I was kind of freaking out a little bit. That didn't help, but it was quite scary for me at the start, and I was wearing a mask and stuff.
Are you wearing a mask from what sort of January, February times?
No. So my grandmother actually lives in Tenerife, so I was there in February. I agree with Romario. I didn't think it was going to be like how it has happened to be, but when I came back from Tenerife the second week of February, back to work and all that, and I suppose it didn't really get serious until going towards March, I think it was. But yeah, I was scared at the start because it was quite a big thing. It's still a big thing, but it was quite new to us. So
Yeah. What about the rest of you? What were you saying?
In December, I wasn't that scared. I was just like, oh, it's in China, don't worry about it. We're all good. And I was just kind of still living life. And then I think come must have been January, February time. And I remember being like, one of my best friends lives in Italy. So she was like, it's really serious over here and how scary it was. And I was just like, oh, don't worry, it's fine. Because she's like, she worries a lot about illnesses and stuff. So I just thought, it's all right. And then I remember being out with my dad and Adonis one day, and everything was like fine. And we went to the park and we had a really nice day. And then I got a message of some Italian girl who follows me on Instagram. And she was like, because I uploaded on my story that we were in the park, and she messaged me and she was just like, you know, just please don't be out, don't be like going out and having fun. You need to go home. Like it's this is really serious. And I was like, get off my page, man. I was like, what are you doing? You're telling me what to do. You don't even know me. And then literally the next day, Adonis got really sick, and I went to work the next day, and his nursery called me, and he had like a really high fever, and I had to go pick him up. I had to leave work early, and then I had to isolate for 2 weeks with him.
Oh wow.
Unpaid, so that was fun.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a nightmare, but then after that it was all right. So yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Alex?
I think in the beginning I just didn't take it too seriously, because a few years ago there was bird flu, and I had that because I used to live in Spain, and I just quarantined for 2 weeks, and everyone got it and everyone got over it. But oh, you know, it's going to be the same. But my family still lives in Spain, and my mum basically was like, everything's gone on lockdown overnight, the kids aren't going to go back to school. And I was like, oh, you know, well, maybe it's a bit more serious. And then yeah, day after, work, like everyone pack up, go home, take stuff, we don't know when you're coming back. And I was like, oh, okay. But for ages I just thought, oh, you know, it's just a really bad flu, because that's what people were saying. So I really just didn't take it seriously at all.
I mean,
Yeah. The idea of it being the bad flu, like that was bouncing around my ears quite a lot. People were just, oh, it's just the flu symptoms, it's fine. You know, that was bouncing around. Chris, do you think that was like a lack of communication, like in terms of the way that the government communicated across, or was there not enough info on it? Or
you know what, I mean, I think looking back on it, I think that, you know, this is so unprecedented that, I mean, how many people could really stick their neck out in February and talk about what the UK need to do about this pandemic in China? You know, like someone has said, we've had SARS, you know, the world's had Ebola, they've had respiratory viruses that have spread and killed people, and they've had to adapt and make changes. And I mean, I'm a natural optimist, I guess. I was out in Tenerife myself throughout the whole of January, and I, just like everyone else, I didn't take it serious enough for a while. I remember coming back from the Canary Islands, having been out there for about 6 weeks. I remember coming back, and I had another trip booked to go in March, and I didn't cancel that until I think it was about mid-Feb that I cancelled it. So that I mean, actions speak louder than words. When I cancelled that, that's, I guess, when I realised, you know, that this is serious.
Yeah.
And the news has been so confusing. And when I say news, I don't just mean watching the coronavirus update. Everything that comes through on social media, it just was just so confusing. All the conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
All the what I call pub talk, people telling you these facts, and then someone else will tell you another fact which is completely contrary. And eventually I just said, look, I guess it's better to be safe than sorry. We have to assume that we have got to take worst case scenario, right? So I just took worst case scenario.
I think, Jay, what you said about communication as well is like, I think I could see what the government were trying to do at the start with not communicating fully what it was or what the situation was going to be, because they didn't want to create hysteria. But I actually think it could have potentially made it worse, because there was so much uncertainty about what it actually was, what position we'd be in, how long it's going to last, when are we going into lockdown, and I think that actually ended up creating a bit more hysteria and a bit more just panic. You found the panic buying. I mean, if they kind of, I don't know, because I mean, even if they did come out and say exactly what it was, people would have still probably gone out panic bought, and it might have still caused hysteria. But I just think it was a bit difficult for them in a sense where it was a lose-lose situation for me.
I'll be honest, our government did a terrible job.
I do believe
dealing with this.
I will say
there's a reason we're so high up in the charts for countries that are dealing with this. Boris Johnson was an absolute buffoon in the way he dealt with it. He was talking about he's going to go around shaking people's hands and stuff like that.
Yeah, man,
Our
I saw
government
that.
dealt with this very poorly because the scientists and the doctors were telling people what was happening. They were telling people how contagious this thing was, but Boris thought, it'll be fine, you know, let's just hope for the best and it might go away. But the fact is, this was never going to go away. The guys in China knew how contagious this stuff was.
Yeah,
they
but
were
you know that,
the
you know
huge.
that now.
No. I knew this. I knew this in February. This was widespread in those sort of circles. It was widespread. The Chinese, the WHO knew about this. I think the issue is that the government wasn't being honest and they weren't being forthcoming with the information that they had and were giving it to the general public, because the general public isn't like me. They're not on YouTube watching videos with scientists talking about this stuff. They don't really keep up with this sort of thing. So if your news is literally what might be on the BBC, and if the BBC is getting their stuff from the government, and if the government's not saying that it's serious, then you know you're not going to know any.
So
you're
why
going to
do
be
you think
none
the
for the
government?
wiser.
Why do you think the government didn't act
Hopeful thinking.
differently?
Hopeful thinking, because to act is to act, and it not being what the worst case scenario would have been a bad situation for them. They were hoping for the best, quite frankly. That's the only thing. That's their plan. Hope for the best. If you look at how America dealt with it, they did it. It was even worse over there, where they were saying that it's just a flu. That's where this came from Trump. He said it was just a flu. We knew it wasn't a flu.
So, Evans, just on the point that you made there in terms of people think, you know, the government thinking that this will just basically pass over. Let's touch on that. Like, do we, like, who believes that statement? Who thinks that it's the opposite? Do you think that they knew what they were doing in terms of let's not lock down until later on, or that this will put, like, what's your thoughts on that?
I agree with Evans in the sense where I think our government over here are reactive, not proactive. Like it's so, it was left to the last minute. Like lockdown should have been done ages before. We saw the proof was in the pudding. We saw other countries doing it. So it was like, it's a reaction rather than, all right, let's assess this from beforehand. Let's see where this could go. And let's be proactive and get things in place, measures in place from early to know that we're prepared for this if the worst case scenario does happen. But it was just a reactive type of thing for me. And I think, I agree with what Evans is saying. We
have to remember the fact that we had a head start. You know, we were watching other countries get it bad. We were watching Italy get it bad. And what did Boris said? He's not going to close the schools. Till a couple of weeks later, he ended up closing the schools because, you know, he realized,
but I really think that the government were not equipped with, they didn't have the competency, that they weren't able to make the right decisions. And just like so many other European countries, you name me a European country that acted significantly better than the UK government.
Germany.
Hold on. Yeah, okay. So
Denmark.
So what did Germany do that was so different to the UK?
They acted quickly. To deal with a pandemic and stuff like that, it's all about what you do in the first couple of weeks, because that's when it starts to spread. So the quicker you close down, the quicker the less the number goes up. So the less
Germany
the infection rate and stuff.
Germany wasn't that quick to close. The research I've done tells me that Germany wasn't particularly quick to close down. It tells me that Germany was particularly quick to test.
Compared to us. But when you say to test, well, why would that have the numbers down? Why would they have a less
the same reason, the same reason why South Korea, who didn't shut anything down, they didn't have any shutdown, right?
They did. South Korea definitely.
All right. So when I researched South Korea, it said that the world is now using South Korea as a test case for how to deal with these pandemics. They've not shut down.
Just in that, another study did come back to say that South Korea, along with China, have been messing around with figures, and also with in terms of cases, and saying that, you know, they didn't have a high case of infected, when really and truly they did. And they also said, our country is operating as it were, but then there was also studies to show that actually flights in and out, in the airspace around South Korea was dropped by a massive number. So I think for me, it's the case of looking. It's always about being vigilant, isn't it? And we talk about how competent are our governments, not just of the UK, but of the world. And if you have a couple of countries who have already been dealing with this particular pandemic, and they're urging you to say, listen, this isn't a joke. We waited, and this is what's happened. Because for a long time, I was continuously taking the underground to get into work. And people saying, oh my gosh, like for instance, it's Italy, they've completely locked down, the military's already in there and everything, but we're still continuing. We're still continuing flights in and out. We're still continuing, travel and all sorts. And that's probably why I could say I didn't take it that seriously, because it was the case of my surroundings continued as normal. There wasn't a pandemic sort of alert for me until, I would say, even a week before lockdown happened. Even when lockdown happened, it was like, whoa, it was like a rumor that lockdown was going to happen on Friday. And then it happened, and we're like, oh gosh, it really is happening.
Yeah, I think there was never that clarity. So it was just like always like, I remember, when was it? We were supposed to go out for a meal, I think, just before the lockdown happened. Yeah. And I was like, I'm still going because schools are still open. Like, as long as schools are still open, I'm still going. And that was my mindset, because it was just like, there was no real clarity on it. And it was just like, I'll still continue about my business as normal until we do finally get that clarity. And I think that was the worrying thing for so many, is just like, well, everyone was just continuing with their normal everyday lives.
And Romario, where are you? Where are you based?
What area?
Yeah, area, yeah.
Enfield, North London.
Okay, and Rosa, where are you based? Oh, sorry, can't hear you again.
Hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know why that is, but I'm in Edinburgh in Scotland.
Okay, was it the same sort of scenario for you guys over there?
Yeah, like it was. I work in a gym, so I feel like everything happened really slowly. So, like, I was only like a week before lockdown where we shut the spa because you can't really, obviously, social distancing as you could say or anything like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, hearing from my dad, because he's talking about what's happening in Italy, and watching the news as well. I remember like seeing people in the gym, like going to the swimming pool, and I just thought, oh, what?
Yeah.
And I felt, and for me personally, I felt like it was kind of building up to that, and obviously with rumors and stuff. But it was really a week before lockdown that my workplace, like, they did a good job, but it was based on obviously the information that we were all getting. There was no sense of urgency, I don't think, here.
I think, like, as someone who comes and works in the finance industry, my take on all this and why it took so long to shut down is, and it's been pointed out, the government have been really optimistic, and while people are starting to say it's really weird, why are we still open and everything else is shut in Europe, is all about money at the end of the day. Granted, the government to keep us safe, but really and truly, money is the motive behind everything. And all this, we can't shut down, there's going to be a recession, what's going to happen? Like, recession was thrown around like no one's business a week before. All money at the end of the day. That's why.
My thing on with the whole thing of it, that was the reason why they did it, but they end up shooting themselves in the foot, because now it's cost them more, because they've had to bail out so many different companies. They've had to, basically pay people their wages. So this is going to be far more expensive than if they were proactive.
Yeah, and I think you were right when you said, oh, they'd just been optimistic and it was, you know, I didn't think it was going to be that bad. I really do think they thought it was never going to get to this stage, trying to pump out as much money and industry as they could, because it's literally...
So here's something. So again, everything that you guys are saying, I'm just trying to think, and we have, you know, especially here in the UK, I can only speak about our government, but we've entrusted our lives and our livelihoods, you know, to individuals that sit within these buildings making these decisions on our behalf, right? And these are supposed to be, correct me if I'm wrong, some of the smartest individuals out there. These are individuals who should have connections all over the world. They have, you know, enough resources that money can buy. And I find it quite quite puzzling how our Prime Minister allowed himself to contract this virus. And I'm not saying that it would have been impossible for him to get this, but it almost seemed like you know, and I'm looking at it as on a chessboard. This is our queen, like this is our king piece. Do you know what I mean? This is our most important, as it were, in terms of pushing this fight forward and being the force that, or the voice to push this forward. And to put him in the sort of limelight and in the firing line of hospitals that currently have this virus and shaking hands with individuals that's exposed to it just seemed a little bit careless to me. And you almost think, you know, would you ever in your wildest dream think that these individuals who, not just the Prime Minister, but his entourage, you know, these people that look after him and have his best interest at heart, you know.
But do you believe he actually had it? Do you actually believe that Boris had it? Because I don't.
Why don't you believe Boris had it?
Okay. I don't know. I just think it's just a bit of a. I don't know. I was never convinced.
Okay.
I mean, never convinced.
Tell me. I mean, you're of course you're but definitely entitled to your opinion. So, but to elaborate, like what made you jump to this sort of conclusion? Because I've heard this before as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I think just because he was just so like funny about it before and kind of making it a serious thing, but then it wasn't very serious, and then it was like, oh, hang on a minute, I've got it, but I'm staying at home, but I'm still working, but wait, I want to come back. And it was just, he's just very back and forth, and I don't know if I really ever believed that he had it, you know.
No,
I think what would have been his prerogative? Like, why would he have wanted to do that? Like, what?
Maybe he just wanted 2 weeks off.
Because he was trying to, well, probably that. Also, I think maybe just to show, because I think because the public was so mad at him that he didn't really take much action, that he was just kind of being a bit, you know, anti-panty about it. And then all of a sudden he was like, oh, I've got it, this is really serious, you know, so we need to lock the country down, we need to do this, don't meet your friends, but you can meet friends, you know.
Yeah, I've heard a view that's just like that one. At the time when it happened, I heard a few views from different people who said, have they done that to demonstrate to the public, for him, as you rightly say, Yasmin, for him to demonstrate to the public that actually, okay, I get it now, this is deadly serious, and to send a message to everyone. People like me probably needed the message. I'm not saying what he did was right if it isn't true. Even people like me are beginning to now question, shit, how anyone can get it, if the leader can get it, and so people I spoke to were saying, yeah, they've only done that, Chris, to get people like you to really believe it. Too many things for me to take a view. I just say maybe it's true, maybe it isn't true. I'll go to my grave, I'll never know.
I get the idea, but the thing is, the way how I view things like that, conspiracies like that, I view it as like the process. What did he do to contract this virus? Boris was reckless. So
Yeah, he was. Yeah, going around shaking
so-
hands and that.
But
Yeah.
this goes back to my point. And again, I'm neither for or against the notion that it is true or not. But if we're discussing it as a discussion, I would have to say, actually, do you know what? Yes, he was careless, right? But really and truly, right? Why was he allowed to be this careless? Like, why would he be this
because he
careless?
called the
Because
shot.
remember, yeah, but the thing about it, the government had so much more information on this virus than we would have had. They would have had some real information from China, from Italy to show the devastation of this thing. So he being
I
the
think
leader.
that's another reason. That's another reason I don't really believe that he had it, because like I'm a carer and I work with old people, and one of the people in my building that I work with, she actually caught it. I've been caring for her and I haven't caught it. I've been cautious. I've been wearing PPE, I've been washing my hands all the time. So if I haven't caught it, like you say, Jermaine, he has access to all this bloody knowledge. How the hell did he get it?
Yeah, but
we have to remember.
Yeah, but it's his attitude as well. If my attitude is it's never going to happen to me, because I remember watching one of the very first COVID-19, government updates at 6:30 or whatever, and I remember someone in those days they were still all in the same room. I remember someone asking Boris, "What are you doing, sir, to ensure that you, in such a critical role in leading this country, what are you doing to make sure that you don't get the virus?" I remember that question, and he just batted it away like it was. He never asked. No, you know what he said? He said, "I'm washing my hands." That was it. Full stop. Next question. I'm washing my hands. 2 weeks, however many weeks later, he had the virus. So I'm not saying that he definitely did get it, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did, because he was like a few of us. He wasn't taking it seriously enough.
Yeah, we have to realize, like, the vast majority of people that work in government really don't know what they're doing. If someone shows that they're incompetent, that's because they're incompetent. And this whole thing about, we have to remember that 1/3 of people don't show symptoms. Yeah. Especially if you're at a certain age, you won't show symptoms. I have a feeling I had it. Yeah. But it was a mild headache for 2 days. I'm never ill, so that's why I believe I had it. Yeah. But we have to remember, we have to remember, we can't just jump to conclusions, especially, let's go by the facts and then go from there.
No, we can't jump to conclusions, but we can say to ourselves, there's a reason, there's a chance that it was just put to us to try and convince us. So that's got to be a possibility, hasn't it?
Yeah,
of course.
So in terms of, and we're going to sort of skip forward in a second to the more sort of lockdown kind of things, but in terms of the virus itself, we've heard several things. We've heard Trump mention that it's what's it called, the China virus. We've heard that the only way to get rid of it is to inject yourself with, is it
bleach?
Was it Dettol?
Bloody Dettol or something, isn't it?
A great ultraviolet light.
Yeah, we've heard that this has started from the 5G towers.
Oh, for the love of God!
We've heard that this is a ploy to get rid of ethnic minorities. We've heard that this is a ploy to get rid of what was the other one? Oh, to get rid of the elderly, because it kills off the elderly, and the earth is overpopulated, so we need less people on it. So, like, no, these are theories and these are what people are saying, but what's your view on any of those takes? Or
I'll kick this off. I think the one sort of conspiracy that I do think that there is grounds for it might be true is the origins of the virus. There's strong evidence. There's good evidence that it came from a lab. Initially, when this first came out, I thought this was cuckoo nonsense. I'm as skeptical as they come, but it turns out the lab is very close to the origins of this outbreak, just strangely close. And they were testing testing coronaviruses and stuff like that. And yeah, China were very, very hush hush with that sort of thing. So I mean, I don't know. I can't say for a fact, but I think if there was one conspiracy that has ground, it's probably that one. But yeah.
Who's watched Avengers Endgame?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The like obviously like Thanos's reasons and morals for why he done what he done was because of overpopulation, not enough food, and that was like, what was that, 2 years ago, last year? Maybe?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking to myself, like, these films and stuff aren't coincidence sometimes.
No,
I'm not gonna lie. Like,
totally
things like, honestly, I genuinely believe things that we see in entertainment aren't coincidence all the time. Obviously, a lot of it is just fictional, is that obviously just, made up things. But there are some things that when you actually look at the deeper meaning behind it, it's like, what were his reasons? It's like, it was such a real life, like, reason and moral that you would have that, the world's getting overpopulated. There is not going to be enough food. There is not going to be enough resources. Like, well, what's the way to deal with that? All right, let's wipe out some of the world population. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying I believe it.
No, I get that.
Just to entertain that conspiracy.
Can I dispel that? Can I dispel that?
agree.
Can I dispel that out of your mind entirely? If you were gonna do something that will wipe out the population, the one part of the population that you probably know what part of the population you want to do, but the thing is that we have to remember is the vast majority of expertise lie within the older generation. We're talking about the greatest doctors, the greatest physicians, the greatest scientists. They tend to be older. So if you wipe out the people that have all the knowledge and sort of what's left.
Yeah, but then you're looking at the wide majority of elderly people.
Yeah, you're going to wipe them all out, is it?
Do you know what?
It's a percentage just to get the population down.
Wide majority of elderly people are still getting paid their pensions. So
I was going to say,
if you cut the pensions, you're saving. You know what I mean? Like, think of the year span. Think of the year span of an elderly person. Think of the year span of an elderly person from when do you start roughly getting your pension? About 60s?
Yeah.
60 people are living longer now. Yeah.
No, but you guys,
that's like a 30-year span of pensions for millions and millions of people.
Guys, it's not from the 60s that people have to worry, and it's from late 40s that people have to worry. Like, you guys are thinking.
Depends who.
No. I'm not gonna start from that. I'm gonna go from the statistics and the facts. I'm not gonna go with pub talk and conspiracies. I go from the facts.
Well, hold on. But you know what? I call it the O.J. Simpson phenomena, right? This is what I call it. I got exhausted from researching the conspiracy theories, which I was bombarded with. I work with a guy he looks at me like he feels sorry for me because I don't believe that Bill Gates is behind all of this, and the World Health Organization, they're all in on it. The Center for Disease, they're all in on it. And he looks at me, he's genuine, and he's about 70. He looks at me like he feels sorry for me because I'm sitting here saying, look, I'm not convinced. I'm not saying you're right or you're wrong. I'm not clever enough to know, but I'm not taking it as read because I call it the O.J. Simpson.
Yeah, definitely.
Who remembers that trial? I remember watching, listening to a raft of evidence from the prosecution. Facts. They presented a catalogue of facts.
So did O.J. not kill her?
That he was guilty. And then the other side would present another raft of facts. And there's always two sides to a divorce. And I don't think it's easy, to say the least, to listen to one side and then take a view.
We're not talking about law. We're not talking about opinions. And you can shape any outcome in the way. That's the art of being a lawyer. We're talking about facts. We're talking about numbers, statistics.
We're not talking about opinions.
That's an opinion. You're talking about opinions, not numbers.
The thing I will say to back people that I'm not saying I'm a conspiracy theorist, that I believe in conspiracy theories. I do believe in some things, and I just, like Chris said, is I will not put something on red and just say, no, I don't agree with it. But you got, for me, I do believe that there's higher powers, like higher people in positions in this world that profit off of things like this.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Yeah.
That's why I'm always.
Go on, tell us, Alex. Go on.
The thing is with conspiracies, right, is if you ever speak to people who are proper into conspiracies yet, no matter what you say to them, they will always find a way to make it make sense.
They're biased. Yeah.
To make it no, because this is happening and that. They will make it make sense, whether they're right.
Yeah.
Be open, but at the same time be logical, because they will. It's like religion, you know. I don't know if you were religious or not, but people always find a way to make it make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dangerous, fine, because people aren't taking it seriously enough because they're hearing so many things, and someone's giving them this information, and that makes sense. So I'll go with that.
Yeah.
People are facts what's them.
Yeah. So I think
it's gospel.
Yeah, I think unfortunately what's happened is, and it's unfortunately it's the world that we live in, right? If you don't give all the facts to an individual, just as in a relationship or at work or whatever, if you don't give enough information for someone to feel satisfied with what you're telling them is the truth, then it leaves space for skepticism and for theories to come in, right?
It's the thing that frustrates me with when I hear this a lot. This happened with Brexit, where you'd find a lot of people would say the government didn't give us all the information. The thing is that we have to realize in this day and age, there's so many people that want to influence you, that want to get an advantage out of you, and it's our responsibility to educate ourselves. We're not going to get the full information from the government. We're not going to get the full information from private businesses, because they have their own interests and they have their own shareholders that they have to deal with. For us, we have to go out and find the information ourselves. The problem with that is you can go down a rabbit hole and you'll never know. So it's a tricky situation. I understand why it's so easy for people to get caught up in these things and that.
And unfortunately, you know, and you and I are testament to this. Like we're all testament to this. We all work with people, and we all play with people, and we all socialize with individuals who think completely opposite to how we think.
Yeah.
You know, just and it goes back to morals. It goes back to how you were brought up, how they were brought up. It goes back to interest. It goes back to so many things. Of course, yes, just like Black history, we should be, you know, educating ourselves on certain things. Just like women's rights, just like so many different things, we should be educating ourselves. And it's just unfortunate that you will have a group of people which are our government, again, which we employ to be in these positions, right? Who unfortunately wouldn't give us the truth. So I'm going back to what Romario, I believe, Irvin, you guys said at the beginning in terms of we couldn't, you know, it's that you don't want the truth, you can't handle the truth, you know, it's that sort of, takes you back there, and you kind of think, okay, if we received the truth back in January, February times, then chaos would have happened even more so and whatnot.
Sorry to interrupt. There was one I forgot. I wanted to say something about that. The thing with a pandemic is, if you don't tell someone that they need to isolate and you tell them that it's okay, they're going to do the one thing that's going to get this virus to spread. They're going to act normally. So if you tell someone, don't worry, it's fine, they act normally, then you're doing what the virus requires to spread. You need to be telling people to worry, separate. It's fine if you're worried, just don't spread the virus. Like, that's the main thing.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go on.
Can I just ask, does anyone in this chat know anyone personally that's got coronavirus, that's had it?
Yeah.
I'm just interested to know. Okay, elaborate. Can people say things?
Grandma.
My godfather.
Okay. What was that? Your godfather?
My godfather, he works in a care home, but he's clear of it now. But
Right. Okay. And how has everyone's people recovered from it? How did it affect them? Was it really bad?
I mean, from what I was told, I don't want to give all the details, from what I was told,
Okay.
A local.
Jay, I don't know if you want to speak on that, Jay.
I mean, I was told the same, because obviously me and Irvin share the same grandmother. And it's, again, it did leave questionable doubt in terms of whether she had it or not. Of course, the test does say that she had it. So you have to go by, again, you have to go by these facts, what's printed on the paper. In terms of, you know, and she's 80, gosh, how old is she, like 83, 84, I believe. And yeah, she made a full recovery, and she was around my mum, she was around my aunt, because they were in the Caribbean at the time, on an island that's got something like, I don't know, 4,000 people or something. And it didn't spread. I think it was, the cases are probably like 6 or 7 there. And she made a full recovery. My mum and my aunts, they didn't contract the virus. So
Jay,
I don't know about you guys.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna ask on that, where you said obviously she was in the Caribbean at the time. Do you guys think that being in countries like that is a like it's more beneficial? Like,
that's a good question.
I feel like there's like, have we heard of a lot of cases in Africa? Have we heard of a lot of cases in like India and like?
Yeah, India's pretty bad.
India's bad, like the Caribbean hasn't had many at all, like in terms of the grand scheme of things.
No, but then see, if there was a really interesting map that came out, and it showed all the hotspots for the coronavirus, and you can literally overlay that with the hotspots for airport travel. So all the countries that have a lot of like, they call them hubs. New York, London, those are the places that had the worst cases, because you know, that's international travel. So it depends. On an island, because you're not going to get that much travel, you might get off with it, but then it's a case of, if it then spreads on that island and you don't have the infrastructure, that's when things might get pretty bad. So it just depends. It's like, you know, you can isolate yourself, but then it can go wrong.
But you know what, to go back to your question, right? If you look at I mean, I've given up taking the data as like for read, absolutely believing it. But you know, you kind of have to take a view at some point. So if I am to believe the data, the official data from every country, where they say this many have died, this many have, the hot countries, there's no doubt the hot countries are safer. Even India, what, 11,000 deaths in India versus
I can tell you it's up by, I can tell you in India it's by a factor of 10. That is off.
Yeah, that's a big
but you look, but again, that's wait, no, and you might be right.
No, wait. If you look at the footage of how how they have to travel, you remember when they were in the cities and the government just said, you guys have to go home, and there was no transport for them to go home. They had to walk. There was videos of them being hosed down, but with disinfectant.
But what I'm saying is they haven't died. But Irvin, so I'm saying, in spite of what you've just said, they haven't died.
How do you know?
I don't know that. I'm just going by the data. I don't know.
By the data,
The data might be all wrong, right?
Yeah.
The data says 11,000 dead.
I'm telling you that data is wrong, because that data is, you're telling me that's magic, because you're telling me you can have a country that has that level of sanitation, that level of distance, that population density, and then
you see. So if I can just say,
that's magic.
If I can interrupt for a second. If I can just interrupt for a second, just based on that, and I think this is a very, very good sort of point to put across. Chris, you mentioned about not data watching, because of course, you know, you don't know how much of it to take as gospel. And I hear what you're saying as well, Irvin. And it did put into question, I think it was back in maybe April times, and I was watching China's tallies, and I looked at a nation that we're talking about has reached you know, overpopulation, right? By far. They had less in terms of the rates of their contraction and deaths, right? To the UK. And it was almost like the UK 66 million versus China's how many, 60 million compared to China's like 2-point-something billion. How is that even a thing? And then later on, reports came out and said, oh, it looks like China's been, you know, a little bit dodgy
Yeah.
when it comes to their numbers, and then
Yeah,
South
they're definitely fudging the numbers.
puts
100%.
into it then puts into question who else is being dodgy with their numbers.
Yeah,
But then
I think
everyone's
everyone
the flip
is.
side,
I think
the
everyone
flip side
is.
to that is maybe they've just dealt with
everyone's
it better,
doing it.
like we said earlier.
Yeah. See,
Maybe
that's
they're what,
the
sorry?
thing, you never know.
I said the flip side to it is maybe they've just dealt with it better, like we were saying some countries have earlier.
Remember, I think
China-
I think every country, every nation has its best interest in heart. We're talking about reputation.
So do I. So do I.
Every country, right, wants to be seen as the country that has their share under control.
I would
like,
have thought so. Right?
Yeah.
you know, like no bad press, no
Yeah.
bad press. We need to keep this down. Again, let's not worry the people. Let's not show the world how bad we are at managing this thing. Let's look like we're on point. Again, that's just my view on
But
it.
then
I think
on that note though, with the whole data thing, there's been all that sort of stuff about the discrepancies of deaths, because it's like they're passing off some deaths as coronavirus when some people have actually probably died from cancer. And it's like, well, which one was it? You know, so then you could get into that
yeah,
argument
because
as well.
they call it
And it's
call it when they do that, they're doing, you're right, they do include it in the numbers, but they have suspected COVID-19 causes. They're suspected. And again, it was said today when I was listening to the news as well. It was, you know, nurse dies of COVID-19 a month before her father died of suspected COVID-19. So it was like, but he's still,
here's the thing. If you die in hospital, you are tested.
Yeah.
So to confirm, if you die at home, you are not tested.
Irvins, I'll say something on that. Yeah, I can speak firsthand for this.
Yeah.
I've had a family friend of a family whose mum passed away, and the family had to fight with them and argue with them to put it down as the actual cause of death, because they was putting it down as COVID, and it was nothing to do with COVID.
Yeah, because
but then you guys got to remember
think about that on
that
a wider scale.
No, but see, this is the thing. You guys are doing the whole, you know, you're taking, I get it, you're taking your experience and then you're multiplying it on the scale of a country. You guys have to be careful with the,
but if they're doing that for one person, how many other people can we think that
exactly?
This is a thing, Rom. This is a thing that happens in statistics. You take your experience and then you multiply it for a country. You don't know if your experience
it's not just his experience, because loads of people have said this. Loads of people have argued about it.
Experience.
Who?
No, me either.
Okay, so let me just say one thing.
Just people on social media.
I don't know about let me just say one thing about the numbers. You can see from years previous how many people die from cancer, heart disease, etc. These are all figures you can go back on, and then what you can do is see who has died extra, how many more people have died, and then you can correlate that with how many COVID people you think have died. So I get what you guys are saying.
I think that is a good correlation, actually.
Yeah, it's not.
Because
I get what you guys are.
63,000 every year they count the deaths. Irvins is right, actually, because that would be to change a bit of the way I was thinking, that 63,000 more people have died this year than the average over the past 20 years.
I for one.
Sorry, 20. I think 23, but it's definitely up.
I for one understand both sides, even to the fact that personally, you know, like my really close friend's grandmother went into hospital because she actually fell over at home, and while she was in hospital, she they were testing and whatnot. She had a high fever and she wasn't responding to certain drugs, and whatever the case was, they said that she has suspected COVID-19. So what they went and done was they then put her in a room with other suspected COVID-19 patients, right? Suspected and also confirmed, right? So they were all in the same room. Now, when her bloods came back, because it took, I believe it was like 8 or 9 days for the blood to come back. When the blood come back, it showed that she was actually negative. She tested negative for COVID-19, but they've now exposed her in this room with the rest of the COVID-19 patients, right? And she had to then stay isolated for further 2 weeks in the hospital, because she's now, well, basically to them, she has got the virus because she's been living and breathing in a confined space with suspected and confirmed cases. So for me, I don't know about multiplying numbers as a nation, but on a level of, wait, you know, we do it. We kind of say, wait a minute, if you can lie to me, you can
how many others?
How many others could?
Who is
really
lying though? I'm curious. Who is lying? Because what you guys have to remember is what happened in Italy, where the case of people were dying in hospital always because there was no beds. It gets to a stage of sick people where you can't, as bad as it sounds, you can't focus on the one, you have to focus on the many. So when you got people dying in hallways, I mean, I understand it's bad, but that's what it was back then. It was a case of you had to, if you thought someone had COVID, you had to put them in there. Because if you didn't, and you infected people that didn't have COVID, people that were vulnerable, then what would you do? I get what you're saying, but
so I think my only point on this that I wanted to back Romario is forget about the numbers. For me, is even if it's one case of someone dying of something that's not COVID, but you're going to say that it's suspected COVID and you put that as part of the numbers, that's already messed up the data for me.
Exactly.
You know,
it's should we ignore the data?
No, definitely not. I'm not. No. I'm not saying that's what I mean. I'm not saying that we've got to ignore the data. I'm not saying that the data isn't valid. I'm just saying that if at all,
be wary of it.
Yeah. If at all it's messed up, if at all it's messed up by a slight percentage, it's like being in a relationship and then you get that small red flag of he or she lying to you about something.
Yeah.
And then it then makes you not trust them or not trust what they're saying, but it just makes you think, oh, and
not
then you hear,
fully,
and then
just
a second
being
time,
aware.
and you're like, oh, it's just 2 lies out of everything that you told me. It's not anything. But
for the data, one last thing for the data, it's not. No one's saying that these are 100% the numbers. It could be off by 20,000 plus or minus. Like, no one's saying that these are 100% the numbers. It's just to look at the trends and things like that.
No, 100%, 100%. I just think it just takes it away. If someone died of something else, to put COVID-19. I know. Obviously, this is a situation that individuals haven't. We haven't faced this sort of COVID-19 situation on this large scale before, but. I have heard definitely from people within my circle of,
I just think we got to be careful of alienating people that actually are trying to, sort this stuff. And the people that are dealing with these numbers are scientists, engineers, not engineers, but you know what I mean? They're not politicians.
Yeah, but you already said, Irvin, that you don't believe the numbers out of India, but what you do believe the ones out of the UK?
No, what I'm saying, they are trends. And I know I don't believe the numbers out of India because you have to say, are they trustworthy? Do they match reality of what they should be? And they don't. India doesn't. Well, no, I think it's off by 30,000, 20,000. It's off by quite a bit. Everyone's fudging their numbers.
But then on the UK
why are India less trustworthy than any other? I don't understand.
Because their numbers are far from what they should be. Because you have to look at the numbers, and then you have to look at.
Irvins, are you taking things like food into consideration? The foods that they eat, like all these other supplements that they might be taking out in those countries that we don't have access to in this part of the world.
Okay, Rom, this is the thing. How does food affect whether you get infected by a virus?
Because if we all know, if our immune systems are stronger, right? If our immune systems are stronger, we're less likely to
no. That's not how viruses. That's not how these viral infections work. It doesn't matter how strong your immune system is. Your body has to be infected first for the virus to fight it.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is so many people, different cultures or different communities.
I think the issue is
different...
you guys have gotten a lot of information, secondhand information from all sorts of areas that are not credible at all.
No, but
then how can you validate your information that you're
because
getting?
I'm getting my information from doctors, and that I'm not getting my information from social media.
Well, I just said the thing that I just said to you about someone changing figures and changing stuff like that. That's
credible.
That's credible.
No,
but then I'm also saying this come from doctors as well.
Yeah.
That they have changed the numbers.
The health thing, I agree with you, Romario.
You know what, Irvin?
Okay, what I'm saying, by the end of this, we will see how bad these countries have done, and we will come back. We will have another Zoom meeting, and I guarantee the numbers in India are going to be worse.
Okay,
guarantee. I'll put money on it.
Okay, but
I don't wish for it, but I'm telling you, it's
okay.
wrong.
But whether they are or not, to me, and I don't need anyone on. I don't need anyone to give me advice on this. To me, it's clear in my mind that everyone's different, and some people have a different propensity to die from a virus from others. We know that a lot of people have had this and not even had any. They've been asymptomatic, and what we look and what we see around the world, other than Brazil, the hot countries are not. They're not reporting the deaths like the colder countries.
That's incorrect for a fact.
That's not a view. That's a fact.
That is incorrect. That is not a fact.
No.
Hot countries. This was the one thing.
I said they're not reporting. I said they're not reporting.
Okay,
the same deaths. That's why I said that's a fact.
That's fine.
Because I just look at the data. I'm not saying the data's right, but
okay. I'm saying, but this whole thing about health and look at how many people are malnourished in India, and you guys are talking about health and what? They're malnourished.
I don't think people are malnourished. They can't afford.
I was just, Evans, I was just saying, with the immune system thing. If your immune system is stronger, then of course you're going to be able to fight any kind of illness better. It's a known fact.
I promise you guys, at the end of this, we'll see the numbers.
What about Africa then?
Yeah. What about
Africa? You like you're saying in India, they're malnourished. As in Africa, there's a food shortage, so it's the same.
I think it can get pretty bad. Right? I think it can get pretty bad in Africa. That's what
it hasn't.
No, because that's the same thing. That's the same thing here. There's a calculation that they did that said if we didn't do anything, it would have taken 2 months for the whole world to be infected. So like we're going through stages of this. Yeah, it hasn't happened yet, but that's not to mean it's going to happen. That doesn't mean that they're so isolated. So how do you know? I mean, there's no great barrier around Africa that's stopping them. It's just it takes time for this thing to spread.
I've got friends who live in Colombia, right? And on a day-to-day, I've been speaking to them about life in Colombia, and I've seen how the less fortunate people in Colombia live. And again, their data is relatively low. It's just one of countless examples of a country reporting a relatively low number of deaths.
Do you remember when I said there's a great correlation between air travel and coronavirus outbreaks? Do you remember when I said that? Okay, Colombia does not have much international travel.
India.
So if you look at but India, that's what I said. India is worse than they're claiming. That is my opinion.
Okay, so let's before we move on to the next question. I don't know if Alex or Rosa wanna, or you, Yasmin, wanna shut these boys up a little bit and give us and give us anything that you give us a point on anything that's been said so far.
I think like poorer countries, obviously they don't have the facilities to report, and they don't have the same, I guess, ability as well to record. But one thing I do know is that India is a massive hub as well for technology production. China as well. Their economy, they can't afford to come out in a bad light, and we've got a load of this going on, because that's going to mean not going to invest in them. People aren't going to give them the business. That's why a lot of these countries, if they don't have the facilities, I'm pretty sure they're doing it so that they don't lose out in travel. Like Spain, for example, their biggest thing is, oh, let's pretend we're back to normal now. It's because Spain is a hub for travel. Like my mum said, if there's anything wrong with Spain, you would never have thought they had a lockdown. They're all opening the hotels, everything's back to normal, and it's dangerous, but they want to look.
They can't afford not to.
Exactly, and a lot of these places are playing it down because 100% they want the business and they financially cannot afford it. That's what I think. Other than
to catch that summer business, that tourism, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
may end up costing them more in the end.
What were you saying, Yasmin?
No, I was just saying, yeah, I was just agreeing.
Oh, what about you, Rosa? What's your view?
Yeah, I agree as well. Like I said, my grandmother telling me that now the Canary Islands are going to be open on the 1st of July. And I think EasyJet are doing flights to Tenerife from the 1st of July. So yeah, I think it's all money and just keeping everything afloat. I think money.
Money talks.
Okay, so let me take you guys back a little bit, right? Let me take you back to the first announcement that the UK was going into lockdown and the sheer fight that was taking place in our supermarkets. Let's talk about these panic buyings and so forth. Like, what were our views?
Selfish.
Yeah, it was a form of control.
Whatsoever.
It's idiots.
Yeah.
Like, were you guys part of the first herd of individuals to raid these shelves?
I wasn't.
No,
I was on.
Absolutely not.
I did quite an early shop, but that was in the second week, which is quite.
Yeah.
It wasn't as bad. There was still stuff on the shelf when I went.
The reason I'm asking that is because we say that this world has come a long way, especially again I can only speak for the UK, right? So the UK is the first world country. We're prim, we're proper. Do you know what I mean? Like, we ain't savages. And
I would disagree with that completely.
We do everything like this is us. Like, do you know what I mean? But I definitely do remember that first week of lockdown, seeing the chaos, right? Hearing about the chaos first-handed. I've been part of it, and I realized after the first week of lockdown, I realized actually I now need to go and get some supplies. Not because I'm panicking and thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not going to have any supplies. What am I going to do? I need to get, but I genuinely needed stuff. I remember going to the supermarkets and couldn't find anything at all. So then what happened was I found myself joining the herd of, oh my gosh, I need to get the last this, I need to get this. So I went to 6 different supermarkets looking for pasta. I picked up things like stuffing.
I remember Relicia sending me pictures of the supermarket. She was like, Yasmin, I can't find anything.
No, literally, like we were picking up, then it started to get that bad after day 2 and only coming back with not even, I don't know, nothing to make breakfast the next morning. It was like, okay, fine, let's gear up, let's go out again. And on day 2, you came back and you were like, oh my gosh, this is for real. So then you became one of those panicky buyers, not because you were thinking, oh my gosh, lockdown's going to kill us, but because you genuinely had no food to survive on, you had no supplies, and it became so hard. But it then became a show thing. You saw on social media, people were showing the supply cupboards of like, I don't know, like 200-300 toilet tissue and 50 packets of pasta.
I remember actually running out of loo roll. Like, we weren't panic buying. We weren't buying in bulk or anything. We were, staying as normal. But I remember I was like, oh God, I've only got, I don't know, 3 toilet rolls left. I need to go to the supermarket and get some more. And I remember going, and there wasn't much there. And I just remember picking up a small packet, not a big one. And I just felt like everyone was watching me. I felt really bad for buying loo roll. And I was like, I actually need it though, guys. I'm not bulk buying.
No, literally, that became the thing.
It's like nature though, isn't it? I think that's when it takes over. The moment, like, we're all civilized while we have things and it's at our fingertips and we can go. But the moment, like, going to be or we're going to run out of something, we switch. We become like back in when we stuff like, no, it's go back to being kids.
Yeah, there's a saying that what we're 3 squared meals away from savagery, and is it 3 or 6 squared meals, something like that.
Literally,
and
it was every man for himself.
Do you know what I found?
I never did any panic. I used to go out and I used to always be shaking my head thinking this is predictable. I guess it's human nature, because not everyone, but the majority of people are fear averse. So if there's a fear, show me the rational behavior in any of that buying. So what if I run out of pasta or even loo roll? I'm gonna be completely fine. Oh, I've got to eat some rice with potatoes because I've run out of pasta, or I've got to eat some bread because I haven't got any rice. That's different. So I need to survive. I need to buy some stuff.
Do you know what I found? Do you know what I found? I found like a lot of people that maybe didn't have a lot before in terms of money, like financially, they actually coped with it so much better in terms of they just like, and even just people from countries that don't have as well. Like my mum's always been like, all right, well, if we ain't got, you just got to make do with what's in the fridge. I think be creative. Like, do you know what I mean?
I think that's the mentality people who don't have
or just come from that background.
And I kept saying that as a counter argument to any panic of any buying, because I said, look, we're going to be fine. We're not gonna perish or suffer because we've run out of that item, but we still got that item. Or I've got to wash my backside in the bidet because I ran out of toilet roll, which is not ideal, right? But come on.
No, exactly.
Well, I'm not suffering.
Yeah, exactly.
But did you see that people were like sort of selling the 9-pack of loo roll for like £45?
Yes.
That's
and the anti-pack, everything.
No, people actually thought that the hand sanitizer was the cure for COVID-19.
I know, and washing your hands is better than antibac, and no one understands that. Even now, some people don't get it.
See, there was even a thing where people didn't understand that just soap was good enough. They were rushing for the antibac. They thought, it's the holy grail of suit. It's just soap. That's all you needed. It could be washing up liquid, could be baby shampoo. It doesn't matter. Soap will do.
Blisters on their hands because they were applying that much of it.
Exactly.
Drying out their hands, the alcohol.
And it's like you're destroying your hands. Like, what are you doing? Just wash.
I think it goes back to what we were saying about the government not equipping people with information, and then when there's an issue, people panic because they're not used to dealing with if you don't do a certain thing, they're not used to dealing with hard truths. So when things come round, they panic and they buy loo roll because that's the only way they know how to control things. So I think
that's like poor management, because a few weeks, a week or a few days, did they say, okay, it's 1 item per person, it's only X amount per person? Why the hell wasn't that in like the same?
100%.
Exactly. My question exactly. Why didn't they manage that?
What the hell?
Ridiculous.
There were even fights and stuff, and it was like, what?
Because again,
it was Black Friday.
But this is what I was thinking. I was thinking again. You've got the hierarchy. So you've got the government sitting at the top, right? And they, in essence, control everything that filters down. You know, the businesses, and then manufacturers, all that sort of stuff, and then obviously the customers. Now you would have, and there are representatives from the business world within Parliament and within the government, right? So you would have thought that these these plans would have been put in place, so we don't have to tell the customers, we don't have to tell the whole nation, but we're telling you guys, listen, this thing is worse than it is. People are gonna, we predict, and again, there are people that look at predictions and the way in which things might happen, and they look at contingency plans. They look at worst case scenarios, don't they? They say worst case scenarios, this will happen. So get your company to put these things in place. We'll get the plastic shields for your tills. We'll get queues in place and so forth. Why was, as you guys rightfully said, why was this not done? Poor management.
That's what I say, and why I said this initially is like, when we look at our government, when we see the mistakes that they make, we have to realize that they're incompetent. Not all of them, but this comes down to incompetence. I'm telling you, you're telling me that these people are smart. They're not stupid. Boris Johnson is a very smart man.
Yeah.
He's a well-educated man. The whole cabinet is full of smart people, but it's mismanagement. It's let's wait and see. Let's hope for the best. And they should have been pulling the levers of government to get this stuff.
So talking on that, right? And we're just coming to the end. So like, we'll just get all your points, get all your thoughts together. And I'm just going to hit you guys with the kind of timeline in which, you know, this all happened, because we were told, okay, we're going on lockdown. We went on lockdown. Then it was, you know, stay home. And then it was stay home some more. And then it was stay home some more. I think every 3 weeks, it was just continue to stay home, continue to stay home, continue to stay home. All right, you can exercise. You know, those funny memes about, fine, you can exercise at home, but you can't be at home. You can go inside, but you can't go outside. You can go to work, but you can't go to work. And, you know, there was so much confusion based on what was coming from up top that people were thinking, wait a minute, can I go to the park? Can I not go to the park? Okay, so you can go to the park, but you're only allowed to do exercise once a day. But what does do you know what I mean? So for how long? And there was just so much, there was so much loopholes. There was just so much, you know,
too much uncertainty.
And then it became no longer stay home, but you can go out, but be alert. And, you know, it's at the moment, we're now on what, June the 17th, 2020. And I'm not sure where we are, because I look outside
right now?
I look outside and I see business as usual.
Yeah, I don't know.
Does anyone what did you say, Romario?
No, I said, does anyone know where we're at right now? I actually don't know what stage we're
at. We're in a holding pattern.
I know that we can meet up with 6 people or something, but we're not allowed to like have someone round for sex. So
what was social bubble about? Is social bubble still a thing? Like,
basically what they're doing is they're realizing people are running out of patience, and so they're loosening things and seeing what happens. Nothing has changed since lockdown started. You guys have to think of this as like the virus is like a fire, and each individual is fuel for this fire. So what they end up having to do is take away the fuel, spread it out so the fire tamps down. But as soon as social distance stops, the virus is going to spread. Nothing has changed. The only thing that's going to change this is medication and a cure. That's it. The rest is just buying time.
I know that you check a lot of the data and stuff, and I haven't been keeping up to date with it lately, but have the numbers for the UK gone down then? They haven't gone down, I'm guessing, from what you're saying.
They've it's plateaued, but it hasn't. Flat. And if you think about what we had to do to get that flat, we had to separate everyone. So imagine what's going to happen when we go back. It's going to go back.
It's that risk. It's that risk, isn't it? It's that risk of going back too early or not. And you would think that with the scientists' help, and I know the government, when you know, contrary to what some scientists believe needs to happen and so forth, but it is the case of actually we may actually go. The shops, was it yesterday or the day before? All shops, well, most shops kind of reopened with social distancing in place and so forth. But we're talking about a virus that I don't really think if it respects a 2-meter distance, or sometimes even a meter. So it's a little bit of course, how long can you stay shut down for? Man has always been about money over human life. So it's when it comes to it, really and truly, can this world afford not to reopen? Can this nation afford not to reopen?
And you know what, Jermaine, I go back to Irvin's point. It's not going to, my understanding of it, right? It's not going to go away until the cure, which is next year, right? So if it's not going to go away, you make a decision. Do you just try and manage it and slow down the spread? Exactly what France, Germany, UK, and just about everywhere has done, right? Slow down the. We're not trying to cure it. We know that X a number of people are going to get it, and the number one objective is to insulate the NHS and the vulnerable, the old and the sick. I know a number of people whose attitude is the sooner I get it, the better, because they think because they're young and haven't got any underlying illnesses, their chances of dying are so remote that it's the same risk as I ride a motorbike into central London every day. Have I got more chance of getting killed on my motorbike than from coronavirus? I mean, I don't know, but it's not going to go away. So I think we do.
That's how I felt at the beginning, Chris. That's how I felt. I was like, that's how I felt at the beginning. I was like, oh, I'd rather just get it, and so it's over and done with. And then, you know,
Yasmin, that's because what we were told. Sorry, go on, Alex.
But they've come out and found out that you can catch it again, so you can get over it, and then you can contract it again.
Okay.
No, but I've been trying to find out information on that, Alex, and where did you see that? Because it's the last time I checked, it's still split. They're still saying there's not enough evidence to know for sure whether it can come back. Because in some cases, it looks like it's gone, and then like a month later, it comes back. It's like, well, it never went in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah. There's some discrepancy between did it kind of go into the background, and you were like really good health.
And you think it's gone? Yeah.
It's kind of like a cold sore. It's always there. You have that in you that it can come up at any moment. It's just stress, whatever it may be. Now, is it like that? You know, it's
what we have to think of as well is there's also some evidence to say that if you don't get a bad case of it, you don't build up the resistance, or you don't build up a strong enough resistance. And then there's also, is this going to be like a seasonal flu? Is this now in the population where we're going to have to be vaccinated every season? Is this going to, you know, is it so pervasive now that it's just another thing that we've got to deal with on a yearly basis? Yeah.
And based on all of this, because of COVID-19, we've been in lockdown. Some of us, I mean, I haven't gone back to the office to work. I've still been working at home because not all businesses have gone back. What have we been, you know, what has been, I guess, the impact on our sort of personal lives or business lives when it comes to COVID? Because, you know, we're talking about it was a full lockdown. Of course, now it's eased a bit, but, you know, even a full lockdown for a week has sort of a rippling effect. So let's talk about that for a little while.
My life has actually got better.
Okay.
I feel
like
that.
I've been still going to work. Like nothing's really changed in that respect.
And
I still go to work every single day. I'm a carer, so I work in like it's not a care home, but it's like assisted living. So it's people separate apartments kind of thing.
Okay.
So I work as a carer. So I've been going to work every single day, but actually things have got better because there's less work to do because we're not allowed to go into people's apartments anymore. So, and my manager's bloody amazing. So he just sends us home early most days, which is just great. So me and him had a chat, and we were like, God, it would be great if this thing just carried on for a little bit so that we could just, you know, it's laid back. Do you know what I mean? And it's been lovely while it's been sunny because it means I can come home quickly, have a cup of tea, have a little tan, and then go and pick up my son. So it's actually been great.
Yeah, well, that's some positive. From every negative, you got to take something. Who else?
For me, it's been weird where I've taken more time for myself. I've slowed down, and you know, you do little things around the house. You paint, you hang up a few, you know, lights and stuff like that. I think what I'm realizing that I don't know how long this is going to last. So let me prepare myself for when it, you know, put myself in a better position where when things quieten down and when things get back going, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I think just going off of what Irving said, there's like you said about putting yourself in a better position for when things go back to normal. I think for me that's been like important in this time. It's like right now it's just been getting stuff prepared for when things does go back to normal.
Yeah.
And then just even like I've found it pretty decent, to be honest. Like I was just speaking to my mum the other day about it, and it was like before this we'd probably pop in the house for like an hour here, hour there. You're out about the whole day. You don't get to catch up with people in your own home.
Yeah.
Like me and just our family just talked so much more than we've ever spoke before. And it's just like you've actually become closer and had more time to kind of reflect on things a bit more. I think it's just that little bit of quality time just with the people that actually kind of mean the most to you as well. Like whoever you're in lockdown with, it's like that the relationships and bonds have grown a bit stronger through just being in each other's like presence every day. I think like for me, that's been important.
Yeah.
You know what? I made a list, Jermaine, of all the things that have been negative for me and my family since lockdown, and I weighted each one to 10. And I made another list on the other side of all the things that have been negative. And I'm not sitting here saying it's been a positive experience. On balance, like a few others have said, I feel like I'm better for it for the same reasons that I've already heard. But I'm one of the lucky. I feel like I'm one of the lucky ones. I've got a big family around me. There's 3 generations of us. We're in a big house with a big garden. The sun's been shining. 80% of us have been on furloughs monies. I've been the smallest earner. I'm normally the biggest earner. My business has shrunk down to 5%. I'm the smallest earner. The others are getting all their furloughs money. So eating and drinking, which is about all we've been able to do, and watch TV and read and talk to each other, which doesn't cost any money, we've been able to do in abundance, in abundance. So on balance, and I do feel like one of the lucky ones, because if I didn't have a big family around me who were growing up and don't need management from me, and we didn't have the resources around us, elbow space and good weather and all that stuff, then I would be, you wouldn't hear me say it's been a good experience for us. I know there are people where I work, I can see people in flats with a tiny little balcony. I see them doing their little workout on the balcony, and then I think, I'm in this big house with a big garden. It's not to be taken for granted. I'm one of the lucky ones. And those people on the balcony, it's all relative. They're lucky compared to the people who haven't even got a balcony.
Yeah, exactly. They probably think the same thing as you. So
exactly.
it's relative.
What about you, Alex?
From a work point of view, it's been like terrible because it's finance and it's recruitment, and a lot of it's quite at senior level, so it's really kind of wiped that off, so it's non-existent. So I've been on furlough, and most of my company's been on furlough because there's no jobs. If anything, people are unfortunately losing jobs, which is quite sad really, because a lot of these candidates I know personally, and having to find out they're leaving is quite sad. But from a personal point of view, I live completely by myself, and sometimes I would literally go days without speaking or seeing people. And it's the worst thing. Sometimes, I mean, you do need to socialize, but I would say, you read and you get a lot more time to think about why am I actually doing something, or you question yourself more, or you question your relationships with people more, not necessarily in a negative way. You can reflect on yourself a bit more and realize, well, actually, sometimes I'm a bit get a different perspective, and you really have a chance to think about, actually, what am I saying and doing, and what do I do on a daily basis that can impact other people or can be rude sometimes, or you get a chance to even just reflect on yourself, and obviously read and do other things to better yourself, which I totally agree with. I think it would be a wasted opportunity not to try and indulge in a hobby or a skill set at this time as well, if you've got all the time to do that. But it's not been terrible, I'd say that. Just the social aspect has been a bit hard because I'm alone.
Yeah. What about you, Rosa?
Yeah, it's been good for me.
I'm
quite lucky because I live with my mum still, so I don't have really any bills at all. I pay my car insurance, I pay my phone bill.
Your face.
I'm just like, Mama.
Can I come and live there with you, Rosa?
Yeah, please. Oh, yeah.
And I've got a garden as well. So it's been okay, and I'm on furlough, so I'm still kind of, and as I say, I've not got many bills, so there's even more money there now for me because I'm not able to spend it as much. And I mean, I work in the gym, I'm into fitness and stuff, but I was always in the gym. So now I've found that like I'll go for a cycle, or I've started running as well. I never used to run. I used to hate running. So now, yeah, like being outside in nature instead of going on a treadmill, you know, I'm running through, you know, the woods and stuff. It's a lot nicer. It makes you feel a lot calmer as well.
Yeah.
Rosa lockdown, man. She wins it.
Yeah, just living a life.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
100%.
literally.
100%. I think based on what you've all said, and again, it's things that I've heard before. Unfortunately, it's if we're taking what we've been told as gospel, because that is what we've been told, and this virus has killed thousands, millions of people. That on its own is sadness, and the reality of it is, we're highly lucky to even be talking and literally doing this now because we're still alive. We're not grieving, we're not grieving because someone personally we know have died or contracted the virus and so forth. And to me, I feel like the last 3.5 months have been the longest but the shortest at the same time. Some days have rolled into one, where it's just like, it's Tuesday today. Nope, it's definitely not. It's Friday. There's been days where I've woken up and I've gone, amazing, I just need to flip over because I'm working from home. I can just turn my phone on, turn my laptop on, and I can do what I need to do as and when, as long as it gets done. I can go to I can go to the park, I can go here, I can do whatever basically. And I feel like, yes, at the start of it, I definitely had a massive to-do list of, I'm going to do this and this and this. And unfortunately, it does get the better of you, this thing called time, because you think, oh, I'll just do it tomorrow. I should really start on that book, or I really should start on this. I'll do it tomorrow, do it tomorrow, do it tomorrow. I mean, I've been progressive in certain aspects, but for sure, myself and a couple of people that I've spoken to, time has been taken for granted. And we've been, I think I was talking to you at one point, Chris, and we said we've been gifted this thing called time, where you literally, as hard as it is, you're just given time, which is the most priceless thing, isn't it, really? And what you do with it is the importance. So yeah, I hear what you guys said. It has its ups, it has its downs. At the moment, the weather has been nice, so that's been. Could you imagine if this was ever to happen in sort of the doom and gloom of getting dark at 3 o'clock?
The weather's been a big one for me
in the afternoon. Of course, 100%. It's definitely been a highlight of if you can say that, of this pandemic. But is it over? Like, is it?
No.
Does it seem to be over? Because to me at the moment, I look outside my window, I look on my social media, and I won't use the word over then. Are we over it? Are people tired of COVID-19? Are people tired of being told about Corona? Do people just want to do what they want to do now?
I think people just miss their friends. When I went to the protest on Saturday, I was so happy to be with my girls. I was like, oh my God, like, because I'm just always with my son, or I'm alone, or I'm at work. And it was so nice to spend some time with my friends and, actually just have a laugh with them and talk like an adult rather than to a 4-year-old, It was just lovely.
That's the biggest thing. We're social animals by nature, aren't we? And it's unnatural. It's almost like being in jail, almost, isn't it? To be confined for such a long period of time.
Chris, what I would say, though, this is all well and good, and this might be a bit morbid, but we're going to feel like this until the bodies start piling up again. So I understand everyone's feeling of it, and I feel the same. I went to see my mum a few weeks ago.
What do you mean by that? Piling up again?
I mean the deaths starting to increase. That's
what you think is going to happen?
Oh, 100%.
What, second wave?
100%. Definitely,
And
because
if
like
it
I said,
doesn't, what are the reasons why you might be wrong?
there isn't, because
There
the
aren't any.
conditions haven't changed. The
I always ask that
condition.
question when someone's convinced. I always ask them.
No. Let me finish. You asked me a question. Let me finish it. What conditions have changed from when lockdown started till now?
Herd immunity.
Nothing.
No, of course
there's only
herd
6%.
immunity.
There's only 6% of us have been, less than that have been. Herd immunity only starts at 70%. So no, that's not a.
No, I'm not saying herd immunity. You asked me a question. You said what's changed. I told you a lot more people have had it.
But
people
herd
who say
immunity
they've had it, they've had no symptoms. A lot of people have now had it. That's a major difference to where we were before.
I think another thing.
Not
to
enough
look at,
people have got
it.
it.
I do think there's a high chance of a second wave happening where people become complacent and people become kind of forgetful about where where we actually are at the moment. And I think if people stay vigilant, if people stay in accordance to rules, which unfortunately we're not this, that's not the way that we are, we probably will get hit with that second wave.
But so far, has any country had that so far?
Yep. China has reopened and they
No, but have they had that? I'm talking about the bodies piling up. Talking about the bodies piling up.
Italy.
The bodies piling up again?
Well, no, they've just come out of lockdown.
No one's had the bodies. No one's been through the.
No. You asked me, is it going to get bad again? I said yes. I didn't say when.
No,
yes,
but all I'm saying is it hasn't. The bodies haven't started piling up in any other country yet. So I'm surprised you're so convinced that it's inevitable.
Because the parameters are still the same. It's inevitable. If the parameters are still the same, how could it not? How could the outcome be different?
I think there's more variables.
Romario,
I think there's more variables.
Like what?
Finish this for us. Go on. I feel like you got the answer.
The virus is in the population.
Yeah.
I mean, I do hear what Evans is saying with a second wave, but at the same time, it is like what are the reasons? What are the reasons for it? I do feel like I do agree with what Chris is saying as well. There has been changes. Things have changed. So where you're saying, Evans, that nothing has changed, I do, but like Chris said, so many people have had it. That is a change from where we first started.
And it's not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough.
Well,
not enough people have got it.
I'm not as convinced as you are the other way.
I am convinced because I spend enough time looking at this stuff. I spend
I spend enough time looking at this stuff.
In all honesty, I don't think you spend enough time.
Where are you researching?
In all honesty, I believe I've spent enough time.
In 2 weeks,
in
2 months' time, in 2 months' time, in 2 months' time, time will tell.
Yeah,
no, do you know what?
It all comes down to what I mean. We're all going to sit here and say, all right, what I've been researching is 100% right or 99% right.
No,
but it's just we've just got to be open with this stuff. It's just got to be like, well, we can hear what you're saying. I can hear what you're saying. But
what I'm saying is a lot of it isn't based on factual evidence. If you look at people that have been infected, and then you're talking about herd immunity, not enough people have been infected for that to take account.
You said about 2 months' time. You said we'll see in 2 months' time. So do you feel like the bodies are going to be piling up in 2 months' time? Like,
that's what he said.
Yes.
Okay.
I hope you're wrong.
I hope I'm wrong too.
I hope I'm wrong too, but the parameters are still the same.
The difference is I know I might be wrong, but in your mind,
you rely on hope.
No,
you rely on hope. I don't.
I'm not hoping. I'm not relying on anything. No, I'm not.
You said herd immunity without knowing the statistics behind it. The parameters haven't changed, so the outcome.
I want to hear what you say in 2 months' time when I remind you. I said, what circumstances could be behind you being wrong? You said there are none.
Jay's big chat in 2 months' time.
Listen, we're coming back in 2 months' time because I've actually been listening to some of the health experts across the world, not just the UK, but across the world, and obviously they work closely with those who are trying to develop a drug and cure for COVID-19. And it's so funny that these individuals who carry the same name or the same title in terms of doctor or scientist or whatever it is, right? They are actually split in their ways in terms of whether or not they believe that this thing will peak again. And
not many. I'm sorry to cut you off, Jay, but that is quite in the scientific community, that is quite a known thing that this is going to come back. If you listen to Dr. Fauci and etc., this is going to come back.
No, but it hasn't gone anywhere. It's not gone anywhere. It hasn't gone.
No, what I'm talking about the upward curve. I'm talking about the upward curve.
I think
it is going to come back. Because as soon as you start introducing people, what else is going to happen? If the virus is still in the population, everyone else starts to go back together.
And it never came back with Ebola, and it never came back with.
But Ebola wasn't as contagious as this. Ebola had a 50% death rate, but it didn't. Yeah, because Ebola. Who do you know had Ebola?
I think it's safe to say. That the powers of this world, we're talking about nations, right, who have whatever knowledge to their disposal. And again, I have been doing research on this, and I think this is why we're still in this state of uncertainty, is because there isn't a certainty, you know. One thing is certain, yes, the virus is still there, and it can spread, but it's down to you and I whether or not that spread happens. Because if scientists advise the government, okay, listen, this needs to happen in order for us to, I wouldn't say get over it. Actually, here's a question: is it possible, right? Let's say everyone adheres to all of the compliances in terms of social distancing and cleanliness and all that sort of stuff, right? Let's say for the next year, everyone abides by those rules, right? Is this a long enough time for the virus to not, because the virus lasts, is it 2 weeks an individual or?
The only thing I can say on this, think about what we have done just to get it to plateau, and what we're going backwards now. So we've separated everyone, and it's just plateaued. It's not gone down. It's a straight line. So if we're reintroducing people now, we're doing less. We're going to be doing less social distancing. So you think about it like that.
Yeah,
we're doing less social distancing.
I think what we'll do is we'll revisit this in 2 months' time. We'll revisit this in 2 months' time. I mean, I think again, this is the whole point for this chat, because I do respect everyone's opinions, and I have to, because you know your opinion's based on you and what you think, and I can't tell you you're right or you're wrong for thinking the way that you do. So yeah, I'm actually excited about the next 2 months, because as I said, I have seen things kind of seeming like it's gone back to normal in terms of everyone, you know, kind of engaging with one another on a closer level, and a more, you know, you're talking about shops reopening, even though there's queues when you get into the shops. There's sometimes that 2 meters distance isn't there. So yeah, I'm looking forward to another chat in 2 months' time to see where we are. Hopefully, for our sakes, I hope that, you know, the numbers
you know what, the evidence is in the countries. There are countless countries who were 2 months ahead of us, who have come out of lockdown and they haven't had the bodies pile up. That's enough for me to take a view. Doesn't mean I'm right, but I'll take a view that countless countries that are more than 2 months ahead of us in this have come out of lockdown completely a long time ago. There's still social distancing, right? Because I think we're going to do that forever to some extent.
Who came out of lockdown a long time ago?
The bodies haven't piled up.
Who came out of lockdown a long time ago?
China.
And And
South Korea never went into lockdown, Ernest. South Korea never went into lockdown.
They did.
No, they didn't.
They social distance. A lot of people. It's very pervasive in China, in South Korea, to wear masks. That is a social thing. Everyone wears masks in South Korea.
They never came out of lockdown.
They do not wear masks. No one, hardly anyone wears masks here. So I mean, the only thing that's going to stop this is medication and a cure.
And there are other countries that are 2 months ahead of us, as well as those two, and their bodies have not.
Time will tell. I mean, if Dr. Fauci, the head of the US department that deals with this, says it's going to come back, I know who I'm going to listen to. But time will tell.
Yeah, I think on that note, we're all. I think no. The thing is, it's amazing to have different views, and this is why we progress as a nation. You know, where we have different views. That's why if we all thought the same. And to be honest, there have been a lot of cases where individuals of high education have been wrong. And I hope this is one of those cases where it doesn't come back, because for our sake, you know, I'd like to think that. We can't rely on magic.
The medical world is split, isn't it? I've watched countless.
It is not. It is not.
YouTube thing
on Fox News, maybe.
And then they give
Fox News, but not any reliable source.
Yeah,
they're split. The medical world split. The scientists.
Not on. There's going to be a second wave. They are not.
They are.
Yasmin,
I would like send me the information. Should
we leave them to it? And
yeah, Jay, I think it's a good idea.
All right, boys. It's been. Thanks a lot, guys.
No, thank you all for coming. Honestly, it's been amazing. Thank you guys for watching, and until the next time, stay tuned.
Thank you.
Thank you.